Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Let me hide that little Venmo link for a second. Before we get started today, I wanted to thank my sponsors at Five Star Guitars. You can see the link below, fivestarguitars.com/all access live. It's going to give you 15% off everything you see there. And the fact that they're in Oregon, it also means that there's no sales tax. So if you want to become a burgeoning rock star like my guest today, you can go to fivestarguitars.com, hit up all those great deals that you get, and save some money. Let them know I sent you. And as my guest today is a bass player, it would be ridiculous for me not to thank my sponsors at Rhythm Traders. Also in Oregon, no sales tax. Rhythm Traders has been around for over 30 years. They've got incredible selection of drums. They do repairs. They've got lessons. The greatest drummers across the planet have come through and done clinics there. So if you go to rhythmtraders.com and let them know that All Access Live sent you, you're going to save 10% off everything. Plus, again, no sales tax. So before I get going, you're watching this anywhere other than YouTube, please do me a favor. Hit this link below, youtube.com/all access live with Kevin Rankin. Hit the subscribe link. There's a little bell next to it. Hit the bell and you'll be notified about all the upcoming guests that I've got. I've got some good ones, man. Corey Glover from Living Color. I just did an interview with him down in Cancun. I've got Mickey Thomas from Starship coming up as well, just at the very beginning of the year. I've got a bunch of great guests, but you can also go back and look at the 224 episodes I've done since May of last year. So thank you guys for supporting the show. Thank you for my guests for being here. And this has been a hell of a ride. It's been awesome. So the ride is just beginning today. My guest has been, for the last many years, hosting the Ultimate Jam Night at the Whiskey A Go-Go. You know him from all those really cool, iconic videos in the late 80s, early 90s, and Quiet Riot. And you also knew him from House of Lords and Jafria. He now has Chuck Wright's Sheltering Sky with a killer video of Army of Me, the cover from Björk. And so we'll talk about all that and other good stuff. It's all good and great humans. So with no further ado, let me thank Chuck Wright for being here. How you doing, buddy?
How's it going? Good to see you.
It's good to see you too, my man. Here, I have to put Heather Thomas back here since she was my my most recent fun guest.
It's a little distracting.
Oh, here, then I'll hide her here. We'll just do this.
It's okay. I'm just kidding.
She was a fun conversation. Do you know Heather from from?
I do not.
Okay.
No.
Well, she's I think she's aligned with many of our philosophical similarities. So,
yeah.
Dude. All right. First of all, you got 5 what look to be gold records on the back wall, and I don't want to dismiss if they're platinum.
Those are platinum, but it actually sold 10 million, and that's a smaller disc that I got, a smaller plaque that I got presented to me by Frankie Binali a couple years back, or a few years back. I finally got that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, did it take that long to get to you?
Yeah, pretty much. This one came quite a few years ago. I've tried to keep it with me. And you see the bass behind me there.
Yeah.
It's framed. That bass has been on tour with House of Lords and with Quiet Riot back in those days between 87 to like 92 or so.
I think I recognize it from the Wild and Young video, right?
Yeah. It was in the Wild and Young video, yeah.
Right on.
But I retired it. When I joined Alice Cooper, I'll never forget Eric Singer, from Kiss, right?
Of course.
He was drumming. He was drumming. He goes, "You're not going to play that hockey stick, are you?"
Oh God! Yeah,
I guess I won't.
Only he can get away with that, right? And he's got a decent pedigree now, right? But I've certainly run across Eric in a bunch of different environments. But my dear friend, who's been playing with Alice for several years, and I know you guys are buddies down the strip, Glenn Sobel.
Yeah.
I've
done many records with him, and we had a jam band together in the 90s. And when he was just a kid, he was like 20, I think, or 21 or something. Yeah.
Okay.
Really talented drummer.
Yeah, incredible, man. It's fun to watch him doing this gig with Alice. But this isn't the Glenn Sobel episode. I was just going to talk to you about it's as drummers, right? I always love to talk to other rhythm section guys about dudes they played with, and Frankie Binali. Oh man, I mean it's hard to talk about him without mentioning how influential he was on me, right? He took the elements of the Bonham era.
Well, he loved Bonham.
I know, man. I mean,
he even did a Led Zeppelin tribute record himself.
I certainly saw him do the drum off, or I mean, the Bonzo Bash stuff down, when he would play at the NAMM show prior to his passing. And but he always had that vibe. But hearing him play with a bunch of different environment stuff too, the Wasp record, he did the Headless Children, and the drumming on that was
pretty crazy.
Jesus, man.
Yeah.
But more importantly than his drumming, his personality was something that has sort of carried through. People that have worked with him and knew him talked about his heart. And so, as a bass player, rhythm section guy, tell me about your relationship with Frankie and how you guys connected.
What's interesting about my initial relationship with Frankie was the fact that I was coming from a prog background with my band that was headlining here in LA at all the Whiskey and the Starwood, and my guitar player who was playing with Dubrow at the time with Frankie, asked me if I'd be interested in playing with the band. And I said they were resistant to me because they thought I was a prog guy, but little did they know I was into bands like Humble Pie and Mountain and those kind of bands too. So, but when I got in there with Frankie, he had a tendency to throw a drumstick at me and hit me in the back.
Okay.
Whenever he thought I was rushing.
Wow.
And it wasn't like an easy hit either. It was pretty brutal. It's like, okay, I guess I'm gotta, but he taught me how to play back behind. Wow. Back in the pocket, there's a pocket. A lot of people, some guys are ahead, some guys are right on it, like a metronome, and then other guys are a little bit behind it, which is a really nice feel thing, and that's what he brought to the thing.
Well, when you started playing with him, I know that in House of Lords, where you had Ken Mary playing drums.
Ken Mary's one of the best drummers on the planet.
So I grew up in Montana, right out in the mountains, and listening to House of Lords records, I'm like, who is this dude? Everything he was playing you could tell he had jazz chops. He had total metal stuff. His double bass was ridiculous, and he didn't get the recognition that a lot of those guys, the big guys, had. It's unfortunate. He deserves it.
We actually, back when we were putting House of Lords together, Greg and I went to see Alice Cooper, and he was the drummer with Alice Cooper at the time. Right. And Alice is up there getting his head chopped off or doing whatever, and I'm watching the drummer going, "Who is this guy?" Sticks flying, and he's just amazing chops. And we made an effort to reach out to him and say, "Hey, do you want to be an original band and write songs with us and do all that?" So he came on board.
Right.
And I still work with him. He's an award-winning producer. He's got a beautiful studio in Arizona, and he hires me quite a lot to do different projects he's doing. Playing bass on it. I've ghosted a couple, but a lot of them I'm featured on it. Where they'll say who I am.
Yeah, right. But it's funny you mentioned the Alice Cooper thing and how many drummers he's had, right? Over
when I was with him, we sat in the back and we came up with over 60 past members.
Oh my!
So
God.
It's a big alumni of people that have been, gone through Alice's camp,
right?
Which it was a highlight of my life was touring. One of them anyway. Sure. Touring with that band, playing those great songs and being in such a big like Broadway style production. Right. And I also during the day after breakfast, I'd meet up with Alice and we'd go shopping, and he'd love to get a bargain, and then he'd come backstage and brag, "Oh, look what I just got, guys!" And everybody go, "Wow, yeah, and it was so cheap. Who wants it?" And he gives it away.
Oh my God!
Yeah. He's great. He was awesome. I loved being in that band. It was an awesome time.
Glenn would tell me about that they'll be out on the road and Alice remembers people's birthdays, and he'll make sure that he has people's birthdays taken care of for.
Yeah, he's very thoughtful. He's a totally different person than his character on stage.
Right. Sure.
I've seen the metamorphosis. He changes into Alice Cooper, the whatever you want, whatever that is. It's almost a cartoon character when he's on stage.
Sure.
I mean, I was standing in the wrong place once, and he came by and just hit me with that riding crop, and I went, "Uh-oh."
Man, you get your ass kicked on stage.
I know,
don't you?
I know. What is that all about? Anyway, I'll never forget that too. He gave me a look like, where you're supposed to be. And I go, "Oh, that's the other Alice Cooper," because I just had lunch with him, and he was, "Hey, man." It's like,
yeah, Vincent was nice to you, but Alice is he's not. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, the two different personalities.
I try not to be sort of interview style, but I'm interested to know how that gig came about. Where are you from originally?
Where am I from?
Yeah,
I'm from right where I'm sitting. I'm in the San Fernando Valley. Right now, I'm right outside of Hollywood in a place called Studio City. But
Sure.
I grew up in Woodland Hills,
Okay.
and in the around the rock and roll scene. I actually became a bass player simply because I kind of played guitar, and when I was like 15 or 14, something in that era, these kids that were 16 to 17, and I was big for my age, they said, "Hey man, you play guitar, right?" And I said, "Yeah, why?" And he goes, "Well, we got a band and we need a bass player." And I go, "Isn't that just 4 strings? I think I could do that. Let me go ask my mom if I can get a bass." And that's how it all all started.
That's so sad.
Well, yeah.
It's cool because it actually turned into something cool, but
Well, it did. And it, up to that point, I'd been in a military academy for going on 9 years and was going to go to the Air Force Academy. And because I wanted to be a pilot.
okay.
And I did my first gig with those guys, which was a UCLA fraternity party.
Oh,
And I
man.
drank beer. And I made $75 for back then.
Oh,
That was a lot of money.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
the girls thought I was cute, petting my head and everything, the college girls. And I went to my mom and I said, I think I want to do this
How old
instead.
were you then?
Probably about 15, something
Okay.
like that,
Yeah, the deal's over. If you're that age and you're getting attention from girls and you're getting paid playing
Yeah,
music, yeah,
it was over. No more
yeah.
military for me. I'm out.
Man, what would life be like if Chuck Wright was the pilot now?
Oh,
You know,
well, I'd be retired probably
uh,
now.
the retirement plan in rock and roll is pretty scarce unless you're just an incredible writer.
Just keep it going.
Yeah. Well,
The good thing is I have been able to see the world. That's probably one of the best things I've gotten out of this chosen job, so to speak.
yeah.
If you want to call it a job, it's being able to see, all the way from Moscow to the Far East to South America, all over.
I read that in your bio. It's kind of a neat thing because bands that tour will probably be the first to say that unless you got a series of days off, you don't get to hang in a lot of those places, but there's some magical spots. If you've got,
There are.
and so tell me like bucket list places for you that you just think, oh man, I want to go back.
Well, when I was with Alice was great because he would get to a city and you'd usually have the day or 2 days to explore it. And I'd love to go back to like Barcelona or Stockholm or Copenhagen. I loved London. It was awesome. I've been to Tokyo a couple times. I'd love to go back there.
Completely different vibes in each of those cities, right? That's
totally. Yeah.
I'm gigging Barcelona in a few months, and the first time in a long, long time, and I can't wait. I may not come home, actually.
I feel you on that. I want to go back there the most. So
yeah, really, yeah. And you're married, correct?
No.
Oh no. Okay. I just I wondered if especially when you're out gigging, were you touring? Were you married when you were touring?
No, never been married.
I
do have a significant other.
Does she travel?
She doesn't come out with me. No.
Okay.
No, the Quiet Riot thing was just, she wouldn't want to do that kind of traveling.
Totally. Yeah, me. I know, man.
5 o'clock in the morning flying and then getting a connection and then going to the other side. And then a 2.5 hour drive in a van. And
those lobby calls are brutal. The allure of that is amazing until something comes along,
Yeah, people don't realize that it's not as glamorous as they think.
Right.
But
when you're on stage,
that's what it's all about. I mean, you go through almost 3 days of just BS to do 75 minutes or whatever it is you get.
Yeah.
And that's why you do it.
Right.
I say I get paid to travel, not to perform, because that's a privilege at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I noticed, I've seen you do the QR gig and you are so engaged with people. I see you coming out and you talk to people and you're great at taking pictures. And, it's tricky now pandemic wise, but some musicians kind of lost sight of that, and
that's why we're there, isn't it?
If it weren't for them.
I actually, as you probably, since you've seen me, know, I don't use a pick.
Right.
But every single show I would get asked, "Hey, do you got a pick? Do you got a pick?" And I go, "Did you watch me? I didn't use a pick." So I finally broke down and I have picks that say I don't use a pick.
I love that.
That has my name on. Yeah. I don't, and my plates on my car say no picks.
That's your plate. That's great, man.
Yeah, no picks, man. Although if I have to, like with Ted Nugent, he insisted I use a pick, so I did. But I get enough pointed notes with my fingers,
sure,
where I don't really need that thing, unless it really calls for it. I'm resistant, but I'll do it if it really calls for that kind of sound.
when you're doing jam night and you actually do the playing on those gigs, do you mix it up?
I do. We have a thing. It's called the house band,
Right.
and it's always like top guys like Joe Travers that plays with Zappa, and
Right.
or Steve Vai, and Mitch Perry's my house guitar player, Walter Eno, who's just been out with Eagles of Death Metal and playing guitar and keyboards.
Right.
He's it's a killer band. So we always start the night off with 2 or 3 songs. And Pauly Z's my MC. He's the singer in the suite.
He's great.
He's a great personality. He had a TV show for a couple of years. So
really? Okay.
Oh yeah. It's called Z Rock with his late brother.
Okay.
They had a show. So I mean, he's just, and he always wants to push the envelope with the shows. Hey, I want to do a full orchestra night. And I go, no way.
Yeah.
But we did it. We pulled it off. We're going to do Rocky Horror Picture Show from top to bottom, full costume.
Oh my God.
We did it, you
Wow.
know, and we pulled it off, and it's been great. We did Spinal Tap. And we had 27 bass players for Big Bottom. Yeah, dude, I'm serious. We had them all over the room, little amps and all over. Everybody was everywhere.
Drummers blown
there's
up.
actually on YouTube, you can find that, us doing Big Bottom.
I have to find that. Did you?
Yeah, so Ultimate Jam Night, that's, you know, I do get to play a lot with that, yeah, when we're doing it.
Do you mix it up? So pick tunes, like songs that would normally, you know, the song was notoriously played by a bass player with a pick. Do you actually switch it up and just play it that way, or you're always a finger guy on your own gig?
I always play finger guy on my own gig,
yeah.
I mean, if I was going to do like a Yes tune, maybe, like Roundabout, I would play that with pick.
Okay.
Because that's definitely a double stop pick vibe. But
sure.
But in general, I just use my fingers. Yeah.
You mentioned starting off as a prog guy. So
yeah. In fact, those influences are on my album too. I had a band for about 6 years called Sadder. That was really popular, more popular than Van Halen and all these other bands that were going around. We packed it 3 nights, 2 shows a night, 3 nights at the Starwood. Like every couple months we play there, or the Whiskey. And we were the first band in rock and roll history to have a Krypton laser show.
Really?
And we had special stages built that looked like flying saucers at the keyboards. And the keyboard rig rivaled Keith Emerson's, and then the drums were chrome and set up on these chrome risers. And we had the projection screen for the lasers. He would do like a show and mirrors. Yeah, it was a great, and the music was kind of, if you can imagine, Genesis meets Led Zeppelin, and Queen. It rocked, but it had interesting time signatures and told stories. And we handed out a comic book that had the lyrics, that had the lead singer was an artist.
Okay.
So we did these like comic book lyric books that we handed out. He ended up doing a movie called The Thing and designed the monsters for it. And
really,
back in the
John
day.
Carpenter's thing?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
cool. The one with Kurt Russell.
Yeah, that was amazing. Scariest horror movie.
The spider-headed guy. I actually have the drawing that he did of that.
I would imagine that Saturn stuff is probably collectible, right? If you can get the comic.
I actually just now was able to transfer 3/4 inch video of some videos that we did, professionally shot.
Okay.
That I'm going to eventually start a Facebook Saturn page, and there's still a lot of fans that go, hey, what are, you know, so it's interesting history, definitely.
Guys, like DJ Will, I'm sure he has all the history on Saturn. Yeah, every time I see that guy, he's got like the.
Well, I think he's too young to have seen that band. I don't know if he would have been around. He might know about it.
Yeah, I mean, even if he didn't see them, it seems like the guy just, you know, he knows every little element of rock and roll history of LA.
He does know a lot. I got into the prog thing because when I was I didn't even have a driver's license yet.
Okay.
I'm driving down Sunset with my best friend. We see a sign on the Whiskey. It says, yes, $5. And I go, I heard that band's really good. I go, we should go check that out. No. So we went in there. I had my mind blown. And from then on, I went from Deep Purple and Black Sabbath and all that right into King Crimson and Genesis and all those type of bands.
Wow, that's
more musicality, you know.
$5. That's crazy.
$5, yeah. And they did that right before the pandemic. They did the Yes $5 show again.
Really?
Yeah, with Rick Wakeman and John Anderson and Trevor Rabin.
Oh my God.
It was awesome.
And so
I was reliving my past.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
it's tough because they were your heroes at that point. Going back to see your heroes after a whole lifetime of
Yeah,
playing.
pretty much a lifetime and it was phenomenal. I'm
That's
sorry,
great.
Chris wasn't there. He passed already, but
Of
at
course.
that point, but it was still really great hearing those songs and in the same place.
And Bruford and Alan White both too.
No, it wasn't those guys. They
Okay.
weren't there.
Right.
But
Okay.
it was seeing John Anderson, Rick Wakeman, and
Yeah.
Rick was there the second time I went to the whiskey. The first time was Tony.
Okay.
Tony K, who's became a friend of mine, but the next time was Rick Wakeman.
Okay.
And they had to do Roundabout twice because they didn't have enough songs.
Oh no! Oh my god! Oh, that's a little cheesy.
Yeah, I remember that stuff. That era really. That was like I'm not a trained guy, right?
Yeah.
I didn't take all these classes. I didn't go to Berkeley or what all. My classroom were seeing killer bands like Mahavishnu Orchestra and ELP and all these bands. I saw David Bowie's first concert here and Queen's first concert, and that's my classroom. Was learning from those guys.
That's the best education. In fact, you can see them live.
Yeah, it really was, and I was soaked it all in. You know,
I'm thinking about in that time, if you're either your formative years of playing, when you get to meet those guys, the fact that you're in Hollywood and you're seeing these bands up and down the Sunset Strip, when you get to meet those guys at a professional level, where you've been out, you've been touring the world, the dynamic is different, right? You're no longer at this phase, this level, but you can speak as a colleague, instead of,
except for when I met Mick Jagger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I saw him after a show. We went up to his suite and I shook his hand and I was like, hey. So it's a little different.
Oh, I was going to ask you.
People that are at a superstar level, and then
Right.
there's guys that kind of, I kind of fly a little bit below the radar.
Sure.
I'm not I'm behind the scenes more than right up front, but I tend to be more up front with this thing.
Yeah. So. We can get into some of the prog stuff, but before I jump ahead, I was just going to say, you mentioned the QR record or the QR movie, the documentary about Quiet Riot. So I know that it has to, and I have not seen it. So I love the history of Quiet Riot from the beginning. So I was going to say, if you want to talk about how you got into that gig, and then tell me about the sort of behind the scenes and how they talk about the revolving door.
Well, as I was saying earlier, I was asked to join the band, and I did obviously stay in the band, and we did we were in the trenches, playing the clubs, trying to get signed, and eventually, I made the demos, all that. Eventually, a guy but Spencer Proffer, who had his own label called Pasha, saw the band, really liked the band. At that point, Carlos had joined the band at my suggestion. He was from a band called Snow. And they actually had a song called No More Booze, which is Bang Your Head. I don't know how many people know that. Yeah, it was
Did not know that.
No more booze. What a drag. Na-na-na-na. Yeah, that was the song. And Kevin had a conversation with Randy, who was in Aussie at the time. And Randy was describing to him on the phone about how the kids are doing this thing called Bang Your Head, where they're all banging their heads. And so Kevin put that together instead of No More Booze into Bang Your Head, and then the mental health thing, and that's how that all came to be.
No kidding.
And that was all happened. Yeah, that's the story behind that. And that's one of the songs that obviously ended up a big song that I remained bass on.
Right.
On that. But in the movie, back to that,
yeah,
it takes you from the beginning of Quiet Riot to when Kevin passed and us trying to get another singer.
Okay.
And what we were up against to try to get the band back up after 3 years of being off. Frankie decided he didn't want to do it, and then he decided he did want to do it after 3 years, and called me and said, "Hey, do you want to do this again?" And go, "Yeah, I'm in." So
that early, those formative years. I mean, like Randy Rhoads. You mentioned Randy earlier.
Well,
for those that aren't huge musos, and that Randy Rhoads is who originally started off with Quiet Riot, right?
He's in that. Yeah. Here's the thing that people don't really understand is that there's the Randy Rhoads Quiet Riot, and then there's the Quiet Riot after the mental health Quiet Riot. And the only reason the band was called Quiet Riot again was because the record label, Spencer, wanted to call the band either Standing Hampton or Wild Oscar.
Oh my
And Kevin goes, no way. We're going to call the band. I'm going to just keep the Quiet Riot name. He wanted to be Dubrow again, but they said, no, then it's a solo thing.
All right.
So he said, well, let's just, Quiet Riot's a good name. Let's just keep that.
Okay.
So that's how that, but it's really, people always compare that era to the Mental Health, but it's not the same band at all.
Sure.
It's different.
Well, Frankie was playing drums in both, right?
No, he wasn't in the early. No, it was
Okay.
Kevin and Rudy came on right near the end of that band. But yeah, it was Frankie wasn't involved with the first two. Yeah.
See, I definitely need to watch this documentary because
You should. Frankie does a whole thing that's hilarious about, as you say, the revolving door of all the different guys in and out, and they call me Chuck right now because I've been in the band 5 or 6 times.
Oh my God. Man, you should have a punch card, right? You get like a bonus if you join one more time. So
yeah, actually, I'm the comedy relief in the thing when you watch it, just because camera's on you for 2 years.
Yeah,
and they edited me into all these comedic
2 years.
They followed around. Yeah,
cameras followed.
You get to ignore the cameras after a while.
The Jizzy era, like Jizzy Pearl when Dubrow came out.
Actually, no, Jizzy was not in it. No.
Okay.
At that point,
when Kevin passed, man, it was such a tragic thing. Really. I mean, that was
total shocker.
Dude, the voice that voice is. I remember thinking
personality too. He's like,
oh yeah, he's the ultimate front guy, right?
The mouth that roared,
Right.
It was a double-edged sword, though. I think that if he would have had been a little bit more humble, maybe
right.
It could have gone differently for the band.
Sure. Yeah. Well, how do you feel like it affected the band in a negative way? Where did he come off the rails a little bit?
Well, he would have a tendency to do interviews after like not sleeping for a couple of days or whatever, and then he. I guess he had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder about the other bands that were all of a sudden starting to happen because Come On Feel the Noise happened. And so that's part of it. I wish he would have just said, that's great. Everybody, we're going to, it's a new rock and roll world, because it did change the fabric of the whole scene. It went from the new wave thing, the Little Ties, Knack, My Sharona, to Bang Your Head, have big hair,
right. Yeah,
well, glamorous clothes, all that,
It's I've been playing drums with the Flock of Seagulls for quite a while now, and the singer talks about. And he said, "I can tell you where our era disappeared." And I said, "I know, that was my favorite era of music, right?" So, but Quiet Riot was the first band to go, and hit #1 on the Billboard charts.
It was. Well, they say the first heavy metal band, but for me personally, I've never considered Quiet Riot a heavy metal band. Judas Priest, that's a heavy metal band to me. The Quiet Riot's more of a hard rock.
Thing. And, they got, because if Kevin had that chip on his shoulder about the bands that were sort of derivative. I know bands like Rat were around the scene about the same time, right? They were the early. And but as the music scene and the industry changed, and you went through the MTV era, where it became a lot about the aesthetic, right? Even more about the aesthetic, and so it was the glam thing got big.
It totally was more about the way you looked. That, in fact, with I remember when we were putting the band together for House of Lords, it was more about a look than, as far as in Greg Giuffria's mind,
right?
It was more about a look. I mean, he passed on Gary Hoey and Joe Satriani because he didn't like their hair.
Oh my God! Yeah, if you didn't have Adam Curry big feathered thing, then it just wasn't going to work.
If you just weren't, anyway,
that's too bad.
That was then, it was a different time.
Well, Giuffria was a great band too, but that was really, Greg was like early pioneer rock icon guy for that genre.
For the glam kind of thing. Yeah. With his band Angel, no doubt. Yeah.
That, if people that are watching this haven't seen like the Decline of the Western Civilization Part 2, that was a really interesting look at that era. As a teenager, I grew up worshiping that, right? I'm in the mountains of Montana, could not wait to go to LA, and then I watched the movie, and Penelope Spheris kind of rocked my world a little bit. And she's been doing a tour just prior to the pandemic. She's been doing theater tours to talk about the movie and show it again. I have a 22-year-old son who's chasing the music dream, and I brought him to see the movie. And he said, "Why did you have me watch this?" And I said, "Because it was real." For
Because
the
it's the
most,
reality.
yeah, yeah, and it's
Chris
important.
Hall's like, oh, it's like,
Yeah,
I know.
she talked a lot about that at this book at
Yeah, I
the
bet she
Q&A.
did. Yeah,
But that thinking about that scene, that part of LA, if you grew up there,
I did.
was it just another day, or did you realize, wow, that we're in the middle of something remarkable? The whole world is looking at us right now with a change in the music.
Actually, no, I didn't think of it that way. It's just like something that happened, and I was part of it, and I never thought of it like as a big,
Yeah,
change,
that
but it was. Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, think about all the millions of people. Really, even the "Welcome to the Jungle" video, right? Axel coming from Indiana, showing up with a piece of straw in his teeth, coming
See,
out the bus. That's everybody.
I I remember Axel before they were signed. He was I was at a place called the Ricky Rackman's Cat Club.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, and Axel was hanging out in the men's room, telling people about his band. You got to check out my band; it's really good. Every guy that came in there, he was promoting his band. It's a
Really?
weird place to promote your band, but he did. He knew he would hit every guy in there.
Shaking hands at the urinal. That's a little
Well, no, when they
dicey.
were leaving, when he stood by the door, and he would say, "Hey, you got to check out my band. It's called Guns N' Roses."
Oh my
I
god, I
thought I'll
love.
never forget. That's one of those things that stick with you because then you saw he blew that the whole
Uh,
thing blew up.
yeah, I mean, really, talk about formative changes. Between the new wave thing into the hard rock thing that you guys were at
Right,
the beginning of.
right.
Yeah, Guns N' Roses then transitioned into something completely different too. But you guys had a ride in that era. I know that you went through a little phase with Paul Shortino.
Well,
I
that's Paul. Yeah, that was after we. It was hard, but we had to like let Kevin go,
yeah,
which I was a part of that whole meeting in Japan, and in retrospect, it was probably a mistake because after Kevin was out of there, we were getting zero respect from the record label and at that point, and Paul was coming in and he was bringing Wendy in also.
that's right. Wendy
So
Dio.
then there's two managers. It's like at that
Mm,
point, I just said, I don't
yeah.
know if I want to deal with this any longer. And I started working with Chris Impellitteri and Pat Torpy at that point, who was a good friend of mine from way before that. We
Right.
had a band in '83 together too.
Did you?
Oh yeah, called Exposure.
Okay.
Me and
That
Pat Torpy. Yeah, we were super close friends until he passed, actually.
I
And
one of
he's on my new album, by the way,
I
which we could talk about that in a little
I,
bit.
I do want to.
Yeah,
So
I forgot
Shortino.
where.
Well, we were
Yeah,
talking
so
about
Shortino
Shortino.
was coming in, and I just like, I mean, nothing against him. He's a great singer,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
just the way it was going with the label, and it just didn't feel right to me at that point. So I kind of walked away
Okay.
from it, and then did Chris, and then I was contacted by Great Jafria. Hey, we could put a band. We have a record deal with Gene Simmons if we put a killer band together.
Okay.
But he doesn't. We had some demos that we did with Dave Isley from Jafria, but Gene didn't want Dave as the singer because then it was just another Jafria record.
Mm.
And I was working with James Christian in a thing called Eyes, and I said, "How about this guy?" And then said, "Yeah, that guy's great." So that's how that all happened. So I jumped from the Quiet Riot thing back to that thing.
Another revolving door. But you
Yeah, well,
know,
that was my choice. Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Sometimes it's not your choice. That was my choice on that one.
young musicians that watch this might be taking notes right now, because everything that you mentioned about these different formations of the band, every one of those gigs sounds like they were formed because of recommendations. It's all about networking and who you know, right? And
Right, kind
I
of,
mean,
yeah. Like Chris and Paltre just said, "Hey, man, I heard you're great. You'd love to come over to my place and jam and see how it goes." So
wicked guitarist. I was a big fan of his playing, and I know that, again, we talked to Glenn earlier. I know Glenn played with him, and
yeah,
Dean Castronovo, another buddy of mine that played with Chris for a bit.
and so did Kid Mary.
Oh my God, yeah. So, man, what an incestuous bunch of people you are.
I
But
know, it's
I,
crazy.
but tell me about maybe some, because well, I mentioned Glenn when he played with guys like Chris and Pelletieri and the shredders, if you will. He talked to me about some of the cattle calls that he'd get asked to come out and audition for certain gigs, and he said that he was typecast. that they thought, oh, this is an Avril Lavigne audition. We don't need the double bass guy to come in,
Right.
and so have there been any situations like that where you've gone in maybe for an audition or a call on a gig and they say, oh, we don't need the Quiet Riot guy, or we don't need the
Actually, unfortunately, that being part of Quiet Riot, it's a double-edged sword.
Sure.
I was working with Matt Sorum, who you know from the Cult and Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we were working on his solo record at the time, but we did 7 film scores together.
Really?
Also, with Lanny Cordola.
Okay.
And it came to a point, he was in the Cult and they needed a bass player. And he goes, well, I'm working with Chuck right now. He'd be perfect. And the word came back, we don't want some guy from some 80s hair band in the band. So, I didn't get it. right.
And you never even had an opportunity to make your case, right?
And a lot of people don't realize like the full catalog of what full spectrum, I think is the word, for what I'm about musically. I mean, I've co-produced 2 reggae records. I've done ambient trance. I was in a flamenco band for 2 years. I do a lot of different things.
I've seen
a lot of that's reflected on my record, where it's all over the map. It's very diverse.
I saw videos of you doing bluegrass at some event that was ridiculous. You were ripping.
Yeah, that's with my Acoustic Saints band. We just played last weekend. We have violin, fiddle, the fiddle, we call it a fiddle or violin depending on the song, but it's just a joke. But and mandolin, and we reinterpret classic rock stuff. So we'll do say Life in the Fast Lane, but it's played on the fiddle.
Nice.
And then we'll go right into Orange Blossom Special, which is probably what you saw.
Yeah.
It just speeds up and goes into that. We have a lot of fun with that. And I play only fretless bass with that band, which is a blast.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. So the diversity obviously keeps stuff fresh for you. You started off.
I'm not just a rocker. I mean, I enjoy playing it live. I'm totally into it. I'm 100%. I don't just sit back. I'm just totally into it. But I like doing all kinds of other kinds of music.
What's the ideal gig for you? Like maybe historically, if if that wasn't around or something, would tell me about a band that you think
playing in the Who would be. It Won't Get Fooled Again. It's a great song to play.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, the bass lines in that. We do it at Ultimate Jam Night a couple of times already.
I'll bet.
Yeah. The Who. That would have been. Sure. If you want to pick one out of the hat, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Well, think about those bass lines. Easy transition to think about the bass line on Army of Me. The Björk song is so wicked. My favorite Björk song. I was psyched that you came out with that one.
Well, you know what? A lot of rock guys gravitate towards that song because it's basically a Bonham drum groove, and it's heavy.
Yeah.
When it goes into the chorus, I did a little bit heavier, and we did ebos. Like Robert Fripp, King Crimson kind of thing.
Yeah.
But more behind that song, the way it even happened, I was in the studio with the late Pat Torpey and Lanny doing some other songwriting session together. And we just started jamming on Army of Me. And we were recording. So we recorded. I'm not even playing the exact perfect, the bass part that was on the record. I did my own thing to it. We just kind of reinterpreted it. And then I was searching through files, and I came across those tracks, and I said to myself, these need to be finished. I've got to finish these. They can't just be lost forever. There's a couple songs that'll be on my record that are from those days, from those sessions, that I said need to be finished. Found the right singer for them, found the right guitar player. One song has 4 guitar players, but it found the right people. Lap Steel, and then this is the right guy for the solo, and then this. Whatever it is,
that's we should talk about the record. And you mentioned Torpey, though. I don't want to gloss over that because drummers that might be younger drummers that have no idea what a gift that guy was to the music business. Of course, he came on my radar from Mr. Big, but then you go back through and you look at everything he had done, and
I saw him with Robert Plant.
God, perfect combination of chops.
Yeah, he was perfect for that. Man. Herbie Herbert brought him into that. The thing about Pat that a lot of people don't know is how dedicated he was as a player. He had a rehearsal room nearby, kind of in the same city that he lives in, and 5 days a week, would go and rehearse like 3 hours a day, like clockwork. You knew where to find Pat because he's going to be there working, challenging himself.
Wow.
Just challenging. Watch this. I can do this. It's like,
Yeah.
dude.
And the guy could sing his ass off too.
He's
his
a great
voice.
Well, I don't know if you're aware, but there's 2 albums that are out called Odd Man Out that I did with Lanny. We have a bunch of guests like Steve Lukather and some of the guys in Mr. Big are on it.
Okay.
And Pat's the singer.
Really?
And we co-wrote all the songs together, and
wow.
and it's very eclectic rock. It is a rock record, but it touches on different kinds of things. Definitely, you should check those out. Those came out like 1999 and 2000.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, really, that was kind of the transition time too, right? Mr. Big, stylistically, it was just kind of losing its grasp, right?
Right.
But it's horrible that Pat had passed. It sounded to me like guys that were close to him. I know, like I saw when he passed, Billy Sheehan's post about it, like made me cry, man.
I was there, man. When I saw them with Pat, he told a story about getting the call from Billy saying, "Hey Pat, we're going to go on the road. You want to come out, right?" And he goes, I can't play anymore. What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Well, can you play a shaker?" And he goes, "That's all I do is shake."
Yeah. He had Parkinson's for folks that didn't know.
He had Parkinson's if you didn't know, but that's Pat's sense of humor. So he was out there, but he could sing. So he's out there playing percussion and singing. And he actually played one song that he played fine,
Really?
Yeah.
So he played drum kit. Good.
Yeah.
That's, Matt Starr was out doing that gig. I saw some videos where Matt was playing drum kit and
Matt was, they brought Matt out initially because he's a lead singer too.
Yeah.
So because they wanted those vocals, not knowing that Pat was going to be able to sing. So then they had even more vocal power, which is a great band musically, just killer.
Yeah. As a prog guy, I mean, you can appreciate everything that went into that, right? The chops were there. The hooks, man, the hooks were
great songs.
Not just pretty faces.
I loved it both with Richie and with Paul. They're both great versions of the band, both great guitar players.
They are indeed, man. We talked about like the ideal band for you. About 3 weeks before she passed, unfortunately, I had Tawny Katane on the show. And it was interesting to me that I had asked her about put together your ideal band, right? Yeah, it's just I want to know because of course she was married to Coverdale and she was in that sort of camp. But I wanted to know as a music fan who she would love to see as the ideal ensemble of players. It's fun to talk to other pro musicians that have that. So because you've got a wide range of interests, I'm interested to know for you, if you could put together drums, bass, guitar, keys, vocals, who would you get?
Anybody?
Yeah, anybody. You've been alive or dead.
No, let's just stay with the living, because then if I'll go way back and I'll be, Jimi Hendrix will be my guitar player. I would say singer Paul Rodgers, guitar Jeff Beck, drums Vinny Cayuta, keyboards. That one doesn't really. Somebody's not like popping into my head. Elton John, I don't know. Somebody you wouldn't expect. He's a great piano player.
Yeah.
But those are Jeff Beck's my favorite guitar player, and Paul Rodgers is my favorite lead singer.
Yeah.
And he's still great.
That's it was an odd pairing to have him fronting Queen for a bit, right? I mean, that
was unusual. I didn't think that was a good fit, even though it was an entertaining show.
Sure.
It wasn't he's got his own thing so much. It's good that they got somebody like Adam Lambert, who's more of a Queen.
Yeah. Man. I mean, he just, you could, and then there's Mark, whatever his name is, the guy that they used in the Bohemian Rhapsody behind the scenes, right? Singing those parts, Mark Martel. That dude, ridiculous. I mean, he looks like Freddie Mercury. He sounds just like him.
He does.
But when you put together the jam night stuff, had there been any nights where it just clicked, man? You put together a band where
there's one of the greatest things about doing this, and we did 5 years in a row every week,
Right.
and between 45 to 100 musicians, pro musicians, and some new discoveries, but they still were professional. Um, the best thing, one of the things is being able to pair people that have always wanted to play together and never have before, and they meet for the first time backstage, and they're going to get out there and play. One of my personal things I always wanted to do was I wanted to do a thing called the Wright Brothers with Simon Wright on drums, who's a friend, and
Okay.
Greg Wright, who played with guitar for Michael Jackson,
Right.
and we did some Hendrix as the Wright Brothers, the three of us.
Sweet. Oh, that's
Things
cool.
like that. It's just fun. You could pairing people.
Yeah.
That's what's one of the joys of it. And they also have ideas who they'd like to play with. Hey, could you reach out to so and so? I'd love to, So and it's been like that the whole time. And we have a different theme each week usually too. Based on sometimes like we did a Van Halen night, for instance, or we did a mustache night. So it was all bands that were known for the big mustaches from the 70s, and we handed out mustaches at the front door.
Nice.
We did a cowbell night, and the stage was covered in cowbells and
Christopher
songs.
Walken walked in.
Well, no, we didn't hand them out, but songs that were known for cowbell, and we did the whole "I Need More Cowbell" skit from SNL.
I was going to ask, did Christopher Walken show up at the whiskey?
No, but Pauly Z did a great Christopher Walken, let me tell you.
I'll bet
so we
did.
did that whole skit in the middle of the show. It's a blast. So it's like anything go, which I love. It's like if we think it's going to work and be fun, we'll do it. It's like nobody's telling us we can't. We're the boss. I'm the boss of this thing. So.
And the cool thing is that it's different every week, right? So you think about the same stuff that you might see in Hollywood.
It's not like a metal rock show every week, or
Yeah.
We're all over the map. And I really like our shows where it's so diverse. You'll hear like an R&B song, and then you're going to hear Dio, and then you're going to hear, because sometimes it's based on, let's say the night's about fire. So it's songs that have to do with fire or whatever. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. But we've done so many shows. We're like 250, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Almost 300. I forgot how many. But
so much work.
Over 200. It's a lot of work. And I called myself the cat herder.
Yeah, it's such a babysitting job.
Well,
do you remember? You might not remember. I dropped the ball on you, brother. You actually called me from the other place when you were putting together the first jams. And you had me coming in to sit in on one of the jam nights. And Nate Morton and I were down there. And I was going through a divorce. And Nate took me out to dinner. Oh. And so it got closer to the time. And I hadn't been to one of your jams yet. So I truly thought this is, you get up and it's a casual.
You just show up and play, right? No.
But I called you ahead of time and said, dude, I can't make it. And you're like, that, no problem, man. On to the next, right? And you were cool about it. But I felt so shitty because then I saw the work that you put into those shows. And I realized that was a dick move, man. So I'm saying now, I apologize.
I'm glad you called me early.
I pride myself on not being flaky, and
that's good. Me too.
It's so much work, man. That you put in a lot of work, and it's hopefully, it's paid off at least in fulfilling, like all these people's dreams. And
it really helped. And people tell me this. It helped bring the music community back. DJs are starting to take over. Right. And there wasn't really a place for all the musicians to gather and get together and play. And so we tried it out, and it worked. The first night, I think we had 350 people, and it just grew from there.
Some good friends of mine that aren't from down there, you've had them get up and play. Jeff Buhner from the Loyal Order, and he came down and played with Delana. He and I both played with Delana touring for a little while. And he sent me some videos, and I thought, good on Chuck, man, for putting that together.
It's been very rewarding seeing people form bands, form friendships, even get married. They meet, because of the jam, and it's been great in that regard. Also, we've done some charity work where we'll have a show and tell everybody to bring clothing for the homeless or food, or we'll raise money for Alzheimer's, for instance.
Good man.
Different things. It depends.
You bring up a really good point, and I hate to do this soapbox, but I need to mention, not to get down, but this is an important thing at this time of year. These causes are very, very important, and I want to put this up here sometimes the holidays are difficult for people. So if you're watching this and you want to take a moment to just jot down this number if you're going through a rough time, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, this crisis line is put together by volunteers so that if you are indeed having a crisis and you feel like nobody else is out there that can take your call, write this number down, 877-726-4727. It's a great organization. It's a nonprofit. It's completely anonymous, and you don't have to be alone. So as you're entering this holiday season, just know that there's somebody that's able to help. So now I want to talk about.
Yes, definitely reach out if you're in need. Definitely.
It's a important thing, man. A lot of people feel they isolate. The pandemic did that to a lot of people. They withdrew.
Yeah, I know. I've lost, like, my best friend took himself out, so it's like it's sad.
Yeah, I started doing this show not for really for no other reason than I was doing a Facebook Live conversation with our guitarist. He's up in Toronto. Our singer lives in Liverpool. Bass player's down in San Diego. We were spread out, and I was kind of bummed. We did a little Facebook Live saying, God, this might go on for 2 or 3 weeks or 3 months. We may not be gigging for a while, right? But musicians, I mean, we just like theater actors or anybody else that really depends on what we do as an identity. They go through this identity crisis when it's all taken away from them, And I thought about this a lot with you, that you've had 5 or 6 different iterations of Quiet Riot that you've been through, and other bands where, you're contending with personalities and people, we talked about Dubrow versus Shortino, right? Both amazing singers and personalities. And by no means is one guy better than or worse than. It's just that they're different. And, I'm sure you've had those conversations with people about bass players and guitarists and these other bands. But then when it's all taken away, the identity crisis that kind of comes is that, wow, the thing that I was known for, that I do, is no longer here. How did you deal with time during the pandemic to sort of keep your identity solid?
Well, because I had the time, which I never had the time before because of running Ultimate Jam Night or being on the road on the weekends with Quiet Riot, I finally got back into songwriting again, which was my escape. And that's where this album came to be, is because I took what I was feeling in the very beginning. The first song I wrote was called Weight of Silence, because there was all this empty streets, everything. It was like in a post-apocalyptic feeling. And I taught myself editing too, video. So I put together a video of that, the music. And then I put that out. And then I got a call from Troy Laketta from Tesla saying, man, I love your song. I'd love to put drums on that. And I go, I've never thought of it, because it's just me playing all the instruments.
Okay.
Kind of acoustic guitars and sounds and just really moody. Yeah. And I said, 6/8 feel, that could be great. Mm-hmm. And he goes, yeah, I'll do it. And it was fantastic. And then another friend that I admire a lot, his name is Hines. He's a top jazz fusion guitarist that packs out whenever he plays. Yeah. Same thing. And he sent me some tracks and I edited that together, and it turned into a different thing altogether. And that'll be on the album. And I just, without an agenda, it wasn't about making an album. It was just, I'm just going to write music, something that I want to hear. It's like music I want to hear. There's nobody, over my shoulder saying it's got to stay in this genre. You got to do this. You got to do that. I'm just doing what I like musically. And so at the end of the day, now, all these months later, I have an album that covers jazz fusion, prog, couple killer funk tunes.
Oh, really?
Like Living Color. Jeff Scott Soto is one of the singers on it. Joe Retta is one of the singers on it. The talent, I've been just right now 37 guest performers on my album.
God. Well, tell me about the lineup.
I just finished. I was just going to say I just finished doing, just finalized a Celtic piece with my friend. Yeah, my friend David Victor, who sang with Boston. Okay. Did the vocal on it. It's got fiddle. It's got my fiddle player from my acoustic band, but it's totally a Celtic, like you would see it in a movie kind of thing. And it's all over,
You mentioned movie
I
stuff. Do you have a licensing hookup? Can you get your stuff placed?
well, I'm hoping to through I'm signed to Cleopatra, and they're active in that realm. So I'm
Okay.
hoping that they'll take like some of these tracks are perfect for films.
I don't know.
But
Yeah.
like I was saying, it's the album kind of tells a story from the beginning to the end. It's like taking a cinematic journey instead of just, okay, once you've heard one song, you've heard them all. This is completely not that, you know?
Okay. But, you mentioned the funk tunes. I'm just dying to know. You mentioned Jeff Scott Soto singing one. Who else do you have on?
Well, Joe Retta is the other singer. I don't know if you
Okay,
know Joe.
Joe's an amazing singer
He's an
too.
amazing singer.
Yeah.
And that track's still to be complete. He went down to Mexico. He sent me some, what he calls scratch, but to me, they're final because they're so good.
Yeah.
But that's one of the last things I need to finish is that particular song.
Okay.
But if you want to talk about the different songs, I when I heard about Frankie's passing, I sat down that day, and it all came out at one time. I was writing on a 12 string, another 6/8 feel song, and it's called "See You on the Other Side." And it basically, I think people in general can all relate to that have lost somebody, hoping to see them again. It kind of has that feel to it. That's more of a ballady kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's some electronic kind of things. You'll see.
Buddy, you got a lot of emotion in you. It's for a rock and roller, a lot of those guys kind of try to hide that stuff, but I like that when I've seen you do your thing and even communicating just who you are on social media, um, you seem to, you kind of wear your heart on your sleeve a little bit. I'm that guy too. I mean, it's when you're
Well,
an empath, it's tough because you
yeah.
also, you feel a lot and you live big and you hurt big sometimes too.
Well, I hope that people find solace in this album.
Yeah. Um, Army of Me. Again, we were talking
Yeah.
about it, man. The video is so cool. I think I recognize some scenes from my hometown here in Portland, right? So it looks to me like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was responsible for pulling some of that footage for those parts of it. I
Okay,
also worked with a friend of mine named Drew Lanius, he's a musician as well, but he's also gotten into 3D animation.
okay,
And I saw one of his videos that he did, and they had these dancing Egyptian figures.
okay.
And at the time, that looked like an army of Egyptian figures. I go, I'd like to. I'm thinking about a video for that song, and I thought it would be cool to have an army of Ruth Ginsburg marching on Washington because she was passing away, and I'm thinking there's still all these people that still believe in human rights, women's
Yeah,
rights,
thank
and
God.
all these things. Yeah, thank God they do.
Right.
But the song originally, Björk, if you didn't know, wrote the song, and she
Yeah.
wrote it about her brother, who she wanted him to get his shit together, right?
Okay.
So for me, the song is about I want everybody, the world, to get their act together. Let's get it together already,
Yeah.
And it
Right.
just shows all the chaos. That was created near the end of 2020 after all the just what an insane year. So
Right.
it's reflected in the video. It's taken this long to get it out because I wanted it to be presented with the vehicle of a legitimate record label behind it, and not just here's another video,
Right.
putting it
Yeah.
out
No,
there
I.
properly, you know.
It's poignant. I mean, even though it's not like a whole lot is reduced in terms of chaos and drama in the world. It's just different now. But the
It's different. It's not as crazy as it was, but when I made this video, it was
yeah,
daily
like
insanity. It's
fiery.
like, what now? Didn't you wake
Right.
up in 2020? Didn't you wake up every day and go, now what? Right?
Well,
I couldn't
here's
wait to find out.
what I tried to do during that time. I stopped watching the news a couple years ago. I couldn't do it. And for me,
Yeah.
it wasn't that I wanted to put my head in the sand. It was certainly like I did not want to. I wanted to be able to be aware of what's kind of going on, but I let the entire world get to me, man. I just everything that was out of my control was kicking my ass. So I started going out every day. Now I don't have the beautiful weather that you do. I live in Portland, right? So it's rainy 90% of the year.
I know.
But
Yeah, I know.
my pug and I were out every day in the woods, and I had to go get at least 60 seconds of serenity so that I could capture it live and use Zuckerberg's algorithm so that this time next year, in case things are as crazy as they were in 2020, I can come back on December 8th or December 9th, and if my life is really tough today, I can go back and at least get that 60 seconds where I think, oh, that's right. That was a beautiful day. Even in the rain, I could hear the owls, and I'm in the woods, and so I still try to do that. That's like my meditation space now. But I have to do that because if I watch the news or I hear how another thing happened in 2020, I couldn't take it. It was too much.
Yeah, it's very intense, and I was watching the news and watching what was going on, and that filtered through to me. And a lot of what's in the record is the loss. Besides Frankie and all that, but there was so much loss. Eddie Van Halen, just all these people, and almost 1 million people. It's like, hello. It's like,
right.
So I was feeling that when I was creating.
Yeah, I would imagine it was cathartic for you, right? Just you have a little reprieve at least, and it will be a catharsis for other people too, I'm sure, when they get to hear this record. Stylistically, it'd be tough to sort of revisit that touring. I can't imagine you playing that record on tour with a lineup because the music is so across the board. Right?
Somebody was asking me, how are you going to do this live? And I said, well, if I had Roger Waters' budget, I would be able to.
Yeah.
Because
while we're playing,
I would want it to be an immersive experience.
Yeah.
And I'm very visual that way with things. And I would want it to be a total escape and an experience, not just a band playing, but
Well, I have a recommendation then for that because she's got an immersive video presentation. She does video, and you're a Jeff Beck fan, so Jennifer Batten is the perfect addition for you to take your live thing out because.
She's a great guitar player.
I love her, and she's up here in Portland, and she got into video production when she plays on her own. She's got an accompanying video of all the stuff that she's done to play along with her music.
I'll have to check that out.
It's cool. So when you're doing Chuck Wright's "Sheltering Sky" live on tour, I'll make that suggestion. Unless she's out touring with Jeff Beck again.
It's a good idea. Yeah.
Two things. Number one, I was going to ask you before we go. It's interesting to me what people's idea of legacy is. So when Chuck Wright is at the end of his days, when you're looking back over, all of those tremendous accomplishments that you've done, what is it that you want to be remembered for?
Well, when you speak of legacy, that's really another reason why I was pushing so hard to do this particular project, because I've always been working for somebody like Greg Allman or playing with Alice Cooper or being in a band environment. I've never had the vehicle to just do what's mine, like what I feel musically, production, overseeing every little aspect of it. So I'm looking at, end of days being closer than they were, Right. So I wanted to, now's the time I got to put this out. So at least I leave something behind, and it's not just bang your head, which people still think was not me. So it's like,
oh, wow. Yeah. Well, talk about identity crisis, right? I mean, that's one of those things.
Yeah, it's like, it's whatever. I'm always explaining, no, it's okay. It is what it is, It's people see a picture, they don't read the credits, it's what it is.
No more beer? Wasn't that, you said the original
lyric? Oh yeah, bang your head was no more booze.
No more booze. I'm sure that
it was
a lot of
snow song. Carlos and Tony
Cavazzo,
it was a snow song, and Kevin
Wow.
just took the
Interesting, man. You still talk to the Cavazzo brothers?
Actually, Tony is in touch once in a while on Facebook. Okay. Carlos he's pretty non-communicative with everybody. He's hard to, that's part of why it's hard to try to do something with him, because the communication thing is not there like you would hope it to be. We were really good friends on tour. We were always in the back of the tour bus playing hockey or whatever,
Yeah.
I miss him. He was a great guy. Yeah. Great guy.
That's a drag, isn't it? I mean, really, but people get in their own world, and it's not, some people might think that you have fallouts, but it is a strange thing. You develop a family connection when you're out touring with someone. If you're not in a band, you might think, oh, tour buses, it's just crazy. It's chicks and booze and drugs. It's not at all. But like Tawny talked about how, like that other bass player would work on her lines with her while she was doing acting. And I thought how interesting that is that she's out doing like Seinfeld and auditioning for these movies and working on her lines with the guys in Whitesnake. And
Right.
it's a completely different world than most people think. But the other thing that I like to do on this show, and I'm going to run and grab it from the other room, is I open a fortune cookie for my guests at the end of the show, and whatever ends up in the fortune is yours to choose. So I had Vinny Appice on Monday, and his
same birthday.
Really,
Yeah.
You and Vinny share the birthday, right?
Yeah,
on, man. Like, what a fun conversation we had too. It really,
I have to check that one out. He's great,
amazing drummer. His stories, ridiculous stories about Buddy Rich smoking a joint with Buddy Rich just before he went on stage, and how Buddy still played seamlessly. And but his fortune was a magical thing. A shooting star is going to bring you a lot of luck and magic tonight. And he said, that's interesting because at 4:00 this morning, there's a comet that's supposed to pass over us. And he's just down the road from you, actually. So I don't know if you knew about that comet, but it was an interesting coincidence that the fortune said that. So I hope it's going to be
something like that.
Something like that. So I'm going to grab it. It's in the other room. I'm going to be right back. Don't go anywhere. And perhaps you can tell these folks about the release date on the new record. I'll be right back.
Okay. I'd be happy to.
Okay.
I'm in the process of finishing this right now, and I hope to be done by January 1st and hope to have the album out around March. Chuck Wright Sheltering Sky is the name, and it'll be on Cleopatra Records, and you'll be able to get it everywhere. There it is. Where's my cookie? Cookie! I guess the room is far away.
Nope, I got it right here. Here we go.
Good.
All right, I had to make sure that I didn't step on my pug coming back in here. So he likes to be part of the conversations.
Does he snort a lot?
Pugs? He doesn't have as flat a face as some of the other pugs.
But pugs snort like crazy.
He snores, though, and he sleeps.
Okay. Yeah, they snore, I know. Yeah.
So here it is.
All right.
We've got Lucky. It says Lucky Boy. All right, so we'll find out here. With,
Lucky Boy, Lucky Chucky. Here we go. Okay.
I love it. When is your birthday?
September 13th.
Okay, right on your Virgo.
Yes, I am.
Excellent. All right, I'm a Scorpio. So I don't know.
We're not going to ever get along.
Well, we won't get married.
No.
Anyway, no, I think we will get along.
I'm just kidding.
Good human. We before we went on live, guys, Chuck and I were just talking about the new political party that Chuck was going to create called
the Common Sense Party.
The Common Sense Party. There you go. All right, Chuck, you ready?
Yes.
This is appropriate. You will always be surrounded by true friends. So.
Oh, that's nice. I do have a lot of friends, I got to tell you. And this album was made with 37 of them so far. Yeah, as Joe Cocker's saying, I get by with a little help from my friends.
Yeah, right. That as we need to, man. We build this as a community, and it's all about sticking together. And
I hope to be back building it with Ultimate Jam Night in January. We're talking about coming back finally. Okay. Yeah, it's just next month, right around the corner. Yeah, we're talking about I think it was the 18th was the target date. We'll see. Okay. I hope. I mean, we tried to come back in August, and then the Delta variant hit, and I said no. I don't want to be responsible for because we're it's a lot of musicians and at close quarters, man. It's not like you can really socially distant. If by chance you're willing to give me a second shot, I'd love to be up there joining you on one of the Ultimate Jam Nights. And let me know when you're in LA. Of course. Okay. Yeah, we're down there quite a bit. So maybe we can play together. We'll put a song together. Chuck, it won't be Iran. I promise. I mean, I'll do it. I know the song. I know what you know. I know. Yeah, I'm just kidding. No, I know that would. I never asked a few songs that they always have to play. But okay, have to play. I choose not to use that terminology. Well, not have to play, but you know what I mean. I get to play that song every night. Yeah. So Nate Morton, we talked about that. He was going on stage, I think, with Cher, and we were hanging out after sound check, and he goes, I get to go and play with Cher now. Right. Because, it was time to go. We are blessed to get to do what we do, even through all the hardships. Now, I mean, geez, I feel very fortunate to still be rocking and rolling after all the years.
And
Yeah.
it's fun to know the breadth and depth of all the stuff you've done. And I know there's probably a ton that we didn't even touch on, but you're looking
Way
great.
ton. Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing your 5 platinum records behind you. That's
Oh,
cool.
well, I guess that's a good place to sit. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's almost as good as Heather here. So,
Yes.
listen, you have a wonderful Christmas,
You
folks. If you
too.
got here late,
Everybody have a wonderful Christmas out there.
you
Yeah.
know, if you guys got here late, go back and listen to the beginning of this. Chuck has all amazing revelations about the formation of Quiet Riot and all the formation of Jafria and the formation of House of Lords, right? All these formative moments in hard rock history. So, right there from Studio City, I appreciate you being here, Chuck. Have a great Christmas. Folks,
Yeah.
come back and check out Corey Glover next week. Have a beautiful week.
Corey's great.
He's
great.
amazing. One of my favorite singers on the planet. I won't be doing that one live because I met him in Cancun 2 weeks ago. We did the video.
Oh, nice.
I did an interview and
rough. That's rough.
Yeah, well, I'm heading to the Bahamas in 36 hours actually with my youngest son. He doesn't even know it yet. So
he doesn't know? That's great.
He doesn't know. Yeah, he just knows. I told him we're going to Kansas.
That was my first destination ever traveling was the Bahamas when I was like 11.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's a nice place to be, especially when the weather is garbage here in Portland. So
yeah, well, that's normal.
Yeah. I'm used to it most days, but but I can go off and play music. So folks, check out chuckwright.com and you'll see that his new record's it'll be coming out soon. Hit YouTube and check out the Army of Me video that he did, the cover of the Björk song, and Lanny Cordova produced that, right? Is that right?
Pardon?
Did you say that Lanny Cordova
no, he's playing. I produced it. He's playing guitar on it.
Okay, all right. And then and you actually used drums like that.
Well, these were tracks, like I said, they were tracks I discovered the drums and the guitars, and I thought it should be finished. Yeah.
God. Who was it playing drums in the video? I was trying to picture. It looks like Brett.
Oh yeah, I had to. Well, because I wanted to do a video, I had to bring in some people to sync, and they were all about it. That's Tasha Jones.
It is Tasha. Okay. Yeah, I love her.
With Saliva, she's awesome. And Sam Bam, who I don't know if you know Sam Bam Colton. He plays with Faster Pussycat and Butterside. He has a killer band called Butterside. Yeah.
Okay, right on. Tasha was another one I was going to mention. Ultimate Jam Night. I was really glad to see you have her out there. She's
I discovered her at Trader Joe's.
Really?
We're just talking. I'm checking out. She goes, "Oh, I'm a drummer," and I go, "Oh, really? You should come check out this jam thing I do." And had her play, and she's a killer. Yeah,
she's a slammer.
Powerful.
I have a secret club, a small club of musicians called the Roller Coaster Club, where we, when I'm on tour, Nate Morton is one of them, and we hit Magic Mountain when I come in, and Tasha joined us at Magic Mountain. She joined the Roller Coaster Club. So, are you a roller coaster guy?
I used to be.
All right, yeah.
I don't know. Something changed physiologically with me, and I can't deal with them anymore.
Yeah, spinning sideways.
Although we just went to Knott's Berry Farm, and I went on that really intense one.
Yeah.
So I made it through it. I survived.
We'll induct you into the club, man, if you want to come.
All right.
So, all right. Chuck, thank you, man. I really, really appreciate this.
Yeah, nice to chat with you, and we'll get you up on the stage next time, all right?
It'll be fun. Thanks for the time. Have a great Christmas. And folks, make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Thanks again, guys. Have a great